Another Founder Wisdom podcast today with Phumi Körber, founder at WISI-Oi Marketplace. Interesting and challenging name to pronounce you have, Phumi. So thanks for that. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us about what you've been doing at WISI-Oi.
Yeah, sure. So the actual full name is Phumelele Ndlovu, which is it's Ndlovu and then Bezu, which is like, and then I got married into Körber, and it was like exactly like you're saying, it's quite complex of a name. So I shortened it to Pumi, because Phumelele would be a bit longer, and if I have to use my full Zulu name, it becomes a whole story. So I'm Phumi Körber, and I run a resale fashion marketplace in South Africa. And we are a multi-vendor platform that connects buyers to sellers to sell their pre-loved fashion. And we've been around for close to 3 years now in South Africa predominantly. And we are doing some cool stuff that I think we're going to discuss on this call today.
Yeah. Tell me about this cool stuff, because to me, it's like a Facebook marketplace, but on the next level. And for fashion, I love how these items are exposed with the pictures and so forth. I'd love to hear more about the why behind the idea and the potential market behind it.
Yeah. So, I mean, from a background point of view, I'm from a fashion background and e-commerce as well. And I used to work for the big e-commerce, not e-commerce, but brick and mortar retailers in South Africa. And I think when 2020 came through and we were all under lockdown, which is something I think I'm not sure how old you are, Charles, but I think in our era, we've
29.
never experienced. Okay, there we go. Okay, I am 41, and in our era, I don't think we have experienced a thing called lockdown. I've never experienced it. So it was very new for everybody else, and it was really a time where we got to sit down at home and actually, I want to say, like, start questioning. You had time to start questioning self, right? And one of the things that really started getting to me was the amounts of consumption that we do as humans. And in my specific arena, it was a lot of fashion. And I used to be that girl who, you'll never see me in the same outfit again, and da 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 da. And I just accumulated more and more and more. And then came lockdown, and we were at home and we didn't need so much, and you start asking yourself, like, do I really need to have 100 pairs of shoes in every different color, and imagine if you, and also working, that was just more from my personal aspect, but also working in retail, which 97% of the income or revenue came from brick and mortar stores were shut down, okay, in 2020. So it was we were heavily reliant on retail to move that stock along, and we still had stock coming into the water. So we had a whole lot of like clothes that were not sold during that era. And it really was like, it started, I don't know, I want to say burning a hole in my conscience of like the amount and volume that we consume for vanity is just, it's weird. And it came to fashion, and I put, and we were all decluttering. Everyone was like, in 2020, everyone started baking, everyone started doing like all sorts of stuff, like home gym, home fitness videos, etc. And one of mine was I started cleaning out my closet, because I was like, really, I'm in tracksuits the whole time. Do I need like a fancy dress? And I started cleaning up my closet, put it up on my stories on Instagram, and all my friends literally were taking dabs on my clothes, And I was just like, I spent so much money on these clothes. Like, I don't just want to give them away, How's about we all shop from each other's closets, and we build this community of, instead of us always having to go to the retail store to buy something new, let's all shop from each other's closets. And I decided to build a platform that allows exactly that. And that's the story behind on how we got to where we are today.
Hey, two questions in one. You and I were talking about biohacking before this call. You don't look 41. You like I thought you were like 25 or something. How okay, so the two questions, one is interesting. How does one stay young mentally, physically in the startup journey? Because like sometimes you see founders, they go through the startup journey, they look like shit. Arguably, I kind of look like shit right now. It's mostly not because of the business side of it. It's the puppies that are draining my batteries. Almost done with that, as I told you. But what's your trick? Like, is it being joyful and just like happy all the time? What are your tricks?
I think exercise is a big factor in that. I wake up early before I do anything in my day. I really wake up and go and exercise, and I do like high intensity training, and which basically takes away my energy but gives it all back like in volumes after that.
Yeah.
So exercise is the number one thing. And I think, just I think we touched about like training your mind, and you keep on educating yourself. I'm in a tech business, and every day is day one in tech, as we all know, and you constantly need to keep updated with what is happening around you. So it's like I read a crazy amount. I talk to like amazing, interesting people quite a lot. I consume quite a lot of information from people. And yeah, just like, if I don't take care of me, I have no business, like that. That's just the reality of it. If I like don't take care of myself, I have no staff that we have currently that I need to maintain. So I think it's really a balance um of both what you put in and what you put out. But exercise, I'm a big believer of that. Exercise, eating right for your body can only deliver what you've given to it. So yeah.
Love it. And we talked about, yeah, the startup game being hard last time. It's been like 2 to 3 years since you've launched a business. How do you maintain your mental sanity through it? And how do you lead your team through that challengeful event? Let's call it that way.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I mean, yesterday I was sitting on a call that I've been anticipating for the past, I think I've been trying to get that call for the past 9 months, and eventually we got into that call, and got out of that call, and the news were not what I was looking forward to. So it was a decline, right? and and the amount of preparation and everything that went into it was crazy. So obviously I was quite upset, not upset or sad, I think, or disappointed, pick one of the three. And it was it I literally closed my laptop and I went away from work, and I decided, I'm currently in Charleston, and I decided to go sit at the beach and just, like, before I even told my team about everything. Luckily, I'm very lucky because I've got a really great support structure around me. And we were talking about this, and the beauty with my support structure is they generally objective people, and they like, well, relax yourself, fact A, fact B, fact C, fact this, so you need to like decipher why they declined it, and then like you need to learn what to improve, in order for you to do that. And came back, and I felt much more like sane, and I could be able to relay a much more, instead of an emotional message to my team, it was more structural message to the team of, okay, these are the things we need to kind of improve at. But even with that call that I had, the feedback I had, I was like, it's great feedback, and almost like kind of swinged it into more an opportunity for the future, instead of going, oh man, I'm so sad, and all of that kind of stuff. So take time. It's cool if you don't have the answer right there and then. Take time, go out, like leave your laptop and do your own thing, and you're going to come back like a smarter, wiser person. So it's hard. Startup is hard, like no one tells you like the amount of disappointments that you have, and you put in a whole lot of work. it's hard, but you're gonna have to pick yourself up and carry on, you know, like business as usual.
Yeah, right. The question I had is, does it get easier with time, these defeats, you know? If I had asked myself the question, because I remember these crunch time, and my case in my career had them multiple times. They always suck, but I think they suck less, you know? The more you practice, the more you maintained your whole ecosystem, your whole garden, the more it is healthy, relationships, mindset, knowledge, health, lifestyle, and so forth. The more you work on the whole wheel, I do think it gets easier. In my case, I do these very hard events, you know, these Ironmans and these ultras to get tougher. I guess there's other solutions. They do not get drastically easier. It's not like, oh, I won't suffer. For example, I was about to write a post on, you know, bad PR. I've had multiple of my businesses suffer bad PR because I'm a risk taker and I learned on the fly, you know. Um, and if I would get a hit piece on me, not that I had any of those, but how would I feel today, you know? Would I be more chilled? Is it even worth to think about this? Because it could bring some stress, you know? So what do you think about it? What do you think about resilience and grit? And does it get easier to be slapped across the face in the business world?
Yeah, I think more it really depends on your outlook on whatever challenge that you have. You know, you can look at it as yeah, they suck and I'm great, or you can look at it as lessons and how to improve. And sometimes I think the feedback is quite important, and this is what people don't understand. The feedback is really quite important because you might think you are doing something great, and then an outlooker and your whole team and the outlooker is like, but you can improve in this way or that way. So I think for me is you kind of have to take a lot of these things as lessons, and more than anything else, you almost kind of get asked questions that you would not necessarily get asked by your immediate team, right? So does it get easier? I think the more it gets easier if you implement whatever you know you've learned out of that. Okay, it gets harder if you don't, obviously. But it's and also I think we were having this chat with our team. It's like once you actually like put in the work that you have learned and you actually action on that, you know, the conversation starts to get a little bit easier, and you've established relationships and people know you for you by then, and it just gets a tad bit, I want to say, not as punchy as it is the first time. So definitely it's really what you do with that feedback that can make it easier or make it harder for yourself.
Tell us about like founding a business in South Africa. Like, what's the state of the ecosystem there? Is it easier? Is it harder? And do you think of expansion sometimes?
Yeah, so we're currently in South Africa only, with the outlook of expanding within Africa. So launching a business in South Africa, the actual launch is fairly simple. And by that, I mean, from a legality point of view, that is fairly simple. And I think with it's pretty much with every ecosystem, the more you expand, obviously, the more red tape kicks in, right? But I think South Africa is fairly supportive to smaller businesses, and I think our system allows for a spirit of entrepreneurship, you know, within the legal framework of launching. It does get tricky where you have to almost outsource resources, because those resources are kind of pricey. It gets tricky when it comes to you know, getting financial support, blah blah blah. Obviously, that's a bit more difficult. And also, I think just from an operational point of view, we are in e-commerce, and it's not e-commerce, it's more marketplaces where you rely quite heavily on things like logistics. And logistics in South Africa is great, but there is a great deal of improvements that could be done. And we rely quite a lot, because we are customer to customer. We only deal with logistics, so that's quite challenging to get the price right, first of all, and also to get, you know, almost an automation of sorts when it comes to that. So there is I mean, but everything else from I want to say a legal framework point of view, it's as supported as it can get for a small business, but there is quite a lot of operational issues that are still have lots of room for development when it comes to that ecosystem.
Right. Where do you want to take the business in the next 7 to 10 years?
Yeah. So, I mean, we are building a multi-vendor platform, and so there's it's a two-pronged approach. We're building a multi-vendor platform which addresses quite a number of the issues that we have encountered with our current platform that we had, and that includes things like multi-vendor deliveries, or things like how do we do payouts and automate those payouts without being a bank, and how do we get, you know, the shipment or logistics costs down. So there is multiple things that we are building in our system, and we would like to take the technology to be placed in another marketplace who's having the same challenges, right, within Africa. Because I think the logistics framework, logistics is a big part, but the logistic or end user problem is not identical, but it's still quite a big problem for I will speak for the southern part of Africa, and I'm assuming in East and West as well. So so that is to have our platform as software as a business within Africa, and you can plug it into multiple marketplaces. It doesn't necessarily have to be fashion. And then from a fashion point of view, which is where we are, that's where our niche is currently, it really is to promote an act of, like, you know, circular consumption when it comes to fashion. I want people to normalize the fact that it's okay to shop secondhand clothes. It's okay to open up my closet, and I can my first preference is to buy secondhand before I go into the store. So it really is to normalize fashion, and get people to open up their closets to a number of other people coming through.
Right. And generally speaking, how's the African startup ecosystem doing? Why, as an investor, should I invest in an African startup, let's say?
Yeah. So I think, and then it's probably going to sound really subjective, but I think, you know, Africa has got, I want to say, such great potential to produce really, really great, I want to say, systems and great products, right? And as you know, with African politics, you know, they're not the most kosher in the world, and they're not like the greatest. And it really is up to us as Africans to be able to solve African problems. And I really think moving that responsibility almost away from government into us as startups, it would be great. We can't also ignore the fact that Africa has got 52 economies and a population which is quite a big population. I'm not sure of the exact number. I think it's just below 1.4 billion, if I'm not mistaken. So the population is quite a big chunk of the population. And if we can find things and solutions that can fix African problems, I think it's great returns, because we actually do not have a lot of solutions that are customized for African markets at the moment. So from an investor's point of view, it's a really exciting and healthy market to invest in. It's just about how do we customize the solutions in order for us to satisfy the needs and the needs of that market.
Love it. Where can people find out more about you, Pumi?
So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and I mean, you can. So it's Phumi Körber, Phumi, Körber, Korber, and I'm also find us on our website or our marketplace. It's called www.wisoi.com, WISI-Oi.com, and we also do quite a lot of events within in South Africa. We quite one of the things that we're really trying to grow is also that startup ecosystem within South Africa. And yeah, that's pretty much my biggest ones. Everything else I'm boring. So I'm not that exciting, but you can really find out much more about the business through those two channels.
Thank you so much.